Good afternoon and welcome back on this rather windy day. Today we're going to talk about refining that canter transition. The third gear transition is it is the hardest. It is all important because if you don't have a good transition, you're going to spend the next 5-6 dozen strides trying to catch up. And that's going to ruin your entire performance. Obviously, that is very, very, very critical if you're in an event like, Western riding, very obviously, but trail, ranch, anything where you're expected to do something within a stride or two of picking up that lope or canter. Not having a good transition is actually going to kill you. So my main focus, of course, is your hunter under saddle horses, your Western pleasure horses, your working hunter under saddle, your working hunter horse, with an emphasis on the hunter under saddle. But even there, it is so much easier to continue from perfect than to fall into it half-assed and then try to fix it on the fly. That's just not going to be a win and go. So it's really important right from the get-go. I don't care how young your horse really is, so long as they understand how to transition into the canter from the walk or the trot, you can start working on your transition. What you need to have in a really good transition is power from your third train car back here, your engine, driving forward into a steadying hand, and you want to feel a lift through their withers. So when they engage, they step. Here we go. Lope transition. Say we're loping off on the left lead. Your initial steps right here, right hind. So this has to push, this has to lift. And that's what you're looking for even early on in those canter transitions. And the exercise I'm going to give you today will help with that. One of the most important parts, if you've caught me, I've compared your horse to 3 cars of a train. Car number 1, car number 2, car number 3. The most important car to have control of is the booty back here, right? You have to have hip control. The more collected your horse needs to be, the more hip control you need to have. So your Western horses, trail, even a little bit of ranch, your reining horses even, they need to have an excessive amount of hip control. That's going to clean up your lead changes. The only time I have a horse that does a lead change that I don't really want to see a ton of hip control, you need it, but you don't want them too soft, is your working hunter horse. The last thing you need is to come out of your second corner, come into a line, push them up because, maybe they don't have the biggest step in the world, or, that distance needs a little bit bigger step, and you go to push them up and they just swing their hip in and shorten up. That is the last thing you need. So I want to have a little more shoulder control in my working hunter horses than I have hip control. Because again, last thing you need coming out of that second corner, coming to that line, is to have them drop a shoulder to the outside or have them drop a shoulder to the inside. You only really truly need enough hip control, one, to get your lead changes. You don't need that caboose swinging out on your circles. It needs to stay put. And you need to have enough hip control so that they can be straight and really elevate and lift up through your hands so they can open their stride to the max, so you're not like gunning down the line. So that said, I have a couple intermediate level hip exercises and shoulder exercises. If you caught some of my earlier videos, we did haunch turns, turn on the forehand. All of that sets your horse up for what we're going to be doing now. So maybe you have a horse that's a little too young, yet you haven't really started working on hip control, or, maybe they're not as athletic, they're not as short back, they're not as big hip. A lot of your heavily thoroughbred hunter under saddle horses, your heavily thoroughbred working hunter horses, or even just, it doesn't even have to be mostly thoroughbred. It can be just a little long backed, a little weaker in the hip. They can tend to struggle with a lot of hip control exercises. Also, I add hip control last. I use that more as I start to refine down their maneuvers. So early on, when I'm working them, I do a lot more shoulder control. Not only do I think it's easier for your young horses to grasp because 60% of their weight and effort comes from here forward, but also most riders, let's face it, the only thing they're focused on is from here forward. So having a horse that's exceptionally soft from your leg and seat to their ears is going to make an easier horse to ride for the majority of people. So one of the things I work on first, whether it's a Western horse or a hunt seat horse, is moving their shoulders around. So here I'm going to go track right around a circle. I'm going to push him around the circle with his shoulders, which means a counter bend. Left rein against the neck, right rein open, both legs kind of bumping him forward. With him, because he is pretty broke, pretty soft, I'm going to go ahead and put him up into a jog. And show you to this way. I'm going to use a little bit more of my outside leg by the girth, right? Because I'm going to encourage him to move around the circle with his shoulders rather than his hips. And when he's good and soft, see, I don't really have to even touch him. I've got a little bit of drape in my rein. I just got the rein against his neck. He's just a good old boy. Now I'm going to push him around the circle by his hip, right? So I'm going to square my hands. I'm going to slide my inside leg back. I'm still going to push him in the counter bend because I want him to wrap around my left leg, but I'm going to steer him around the circle a little bit more with my inside leg, pushing his hip to the outside of the circle. It's a lot more work for a horse. You can see even him who's got a lot of hip control. It's like, it's a lot of work in their stifles, a lot of work in their hind end muscles. My hands are a little more square. I'm letting him split the difference by opening my inside rein. See, I'm going to push his hip around. Right, he's a good boy. I'm going to let him kind of go straight. We're going to reverse. Track left. Push him around the circle with his shoulder. Right rein against his neck. Left rein open. Pushing around my right leg up by the cinch. Now I'm going to push him around the circle with his hip. So that means I'm going to slide my left leg back. Enough right leg to encourage him to keep stepping forward. And I'm going to use my left leg to push his hip to the outside of the circle. Right? My hands are a little more square. See, he wants to lope off. He's like, that's my lope cue. So that's how I start getting my horses to differentiate between ends, right? So one is shoulder control, one is hip control. Hip control, as I said, is a little harder on one than shoulder control. So like with those baby hunt seaters, like I said, with them, I like to really focus on the front end, getting those shoulders nice and loose. The long necks of theirs, they can just hang out there. I don't have to worry about holding them. They're not going to be heavy on my hands. They're going to kind of carry themselves a little bit better. Obviously, he's not a hunt seater, so it's a little harder perhaps for me to demonstrate on him. But this is the exercise I use for them, right? So we're just tracking along. Real nice. Pretty straight between my legs. And I'm going to encourage him to step up that jog. Or in his case, we're going to move right into an extended jog. If I had a hunt seater, it'd be a sitting trot. We're going to push it up a little bit. Regular bend here coming around the end. And then when we start working on canter transitions, I'm going to bring him across the arena with my outside aid. So in this case, if we're tracking right, my left rein and left leg up by the cinch, just like I was doing that counter bend circle. And then I get over here, I will ask him to lope. I'll show you that one more time at the jog. Okay? Going the other way. Come out of the second corner, go across that diagonal, push his shoulders and his neck across. See, I'm pushing him into my left rein and leg. I get to the rail. I'm going to ask him to lope. Or not. I'm going to come across. Pushing. Left, we're going right, so it's my left rein, left leg, push him into my right rein and my right leg and canter off when we get to the rail. This also sets you up so that you can pick that outside rein up with them hunt seaters, square those shoulders up, get them to lift those shoulders and drive that high. So here we go again. We're going to push him across. Push, push, push into those outside aids. We're going to drive, 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 drive. I'm going to throw an entire circle in here. Ooh, fresh. Dog. So the big thing, as you might be able to see, as we cross here, is I'm pushing him over, going right. So left rein against his neck, left leg up by the cinch. His body is kind of curled already into that position for the Lope departure, right? We're going to do it again. I'm going to go left, right rein against him. Slide. Slide my left leg back so that I can push him into it. Now, ideally, the straighter you can keep his body, her body, across the center, jog, the better. This is not an exercise I've ever really done with him. But ultimately, that's going to help you, jog, buddy, with those lead changes. See, already, his Lope depart is cleaning up. Jog. I'm trying to straighten up his body because ultimately that's going to help me clean up. There we go. Clean up that departure. To do that, I might have to block him even a little bit. See, I'm blocking him a little bit with my right rein here, opening my left rein because I gotta straighten that body up. But I want her to push into those outside aids, and when he's there and he pushes, I push back a little bit and ask him to canter. Or in this case, Lope. Jog. Big. Nope, jog. Nope, jog. There we go.